The good news is you can do this. And I'm going to encourage you, whatever you've been through, my prayers are with you. My thoughts are with you.
Hi, so this is episode 26, and I want to go into detail now as to what I've done and what I continue to do to overcome the emotional and psychological traps of divorce. In the last episode, I talked to you about managing expectations. So I'm going to continue now. If you want to know more about what those emotional traps and psychological traps are, check out episode 25. And I'm going to leave the link for you because you really need to, I think so. You really need to listen to my heart because I'm not speaking theoretically. I might be speaking theoretically when I share it, but this is my real experience. I'm just condensing my experience in a way that can communicate it, right? But this is my experience. So when I share theoretically, imagine the emotions and the psychological processes that went along with that, those emotional traps that I shared within the last episode. Today, we're going to continue with talking about what I've done to overcome psychological and emotional traps of divorce and why I think that many times divorce can be harder than being married. So let me talk about the second one, looking at my notes here. You're going to have to, what I've done and what I continue to do, and I'm doing right now, I've worked harder than I've ever worked in my entire life. Because I learned to manage my expectations and be realistic about what is needed for me to survive and thrive as a person who is divorced, I made up my mind early on that this is not going to be easy. And because it is not going to be easy, I'm going to have to work harder in every area of my life. And I'm going to share one of those areas with you. One of the areas in which I've had to work very hard, and I continue to, is in the area of my hustle, the amount of work that I do. I've always worked hard, but I worked harder than I've ever worked in my life. And I've become the kind of person, which I kind of was before, but this is a different level, very, very logical and concrete when it comes to my finances. I don't do too much emotion when it comes to money. I look at what needs to be done. If I owe something, if I need to handle something, and I confront it. That whole idea that, oh, let me finish this money and then I can ask my husband to give me money or ask my wife to give me money, that's not going to work. I ain't married anymore. And I did not want to become a burden to people. Now, if I need help, I'm going to ask for it. But if I don't need help, why should I be asking for it? So I didn't baby myself. Not only did I not look for people to baby me, I did not baby myself. If you have $5, then spend within $5. If you need more and you need help, go get it. But amazingly, in the last many years, because of that mindset, I have found that things have become easier for me. Things have become easier for me. Another area in which I've had to work very hard is in the area of managing what I say in the presence of my children about their father, about my pain. Now, they're going to know some things. They're going to know that I've had periods of frustration. God bless anybody who hasn't. I have, when I've shown my children my frustration. But across the board, I have worked hard to manage what I say in front of them. But really not just in front of them, what I even do when they're not there. Because sometimes communication is less about what you say and is more about your body language, your tone, and your gestures. Behind the scenes, I have no business wishing that my children and their father don't get on well. No. It was important for me to work very hard in being fair. You don't have to love somebody to be fair to them. Those children are not just mine. They are also my ex-husband's. And they belong to both of us. And they ought to be given full permission to enjoy both of us without feeling guilty. So yes, I've had to work very hard at being fair. Yes, I wish they could be with me during a certain time, but the order says they should be with their dad. And now that there's no order, there are times that, because they're older now, there are times they want to go to their dad. I have embraced that. I have channeled my energy into wanting them to be happy more than what I want for myself as a mother. So I've had to work very hard at that. Because as human beings, we're selfish. We're supposed to be. But in this area, I've had to work very hard, so much that I actually now enjoy my children saying, I had a good time with my dad. That's because I had to work hard at that tendency to be selfish and be possessive. They are not mine. And also by faith, God gave them to me. And because He gave them to me, I don't get to treat them like they're my possessions. They're my children, but they have minds and they have desires, and that must be allowed to be enjoyed with the other parent. And that is important. So I've had to work very hard at that. I've also had to work very hard at overlooking minor things, such as when the girls were younger and we had maybe we had an event somewhere and they came with dad. Maybe my younger daughter's hair or something was not as brushed, as clean, much as I would have wanted it, but they looked tidy. There's no need to say anything about that. That is not the time to say, oh, he's not doing a good job as a dad. He's not a mom. So when my daughters had special events and they had to dress up, we changed the order so they'll be in my house, right? So I can do the mommy thing, brush, do all those things that I like to do. But they're being fed, they're properly clothed, their father takes good care of them, they're not being abused in any way. So you have to work hard to overlook the things that don't matter. That is a preference, having their hair brushed a certain way. That is not a need. That is not a big problem. And when you focus on minor things with divorce, you will never heal. I can promise you right now, honey, you will never, ever heal. So I overlook that and even laugh about it. So when they come to my house, then I brush their hair the way I want to. So what? And that is important. To tone down my personal needs and understand the importance of being fair, even if I don't always feel comfortable, and knowing that that's totally fine for my children to be happy without me being there. That has taken some level of discipline. And I've enjoyed the benefits of just seeing my daughters happy and knowing that at no time is mom unhappy when they go to dad. That is from when they started going over 15 years ago and when they go now. Mommy is happy that they have a daddy that they love and that daddy loves them. And daddy loves them apart from me. That takes discipline. Some of you will not be able to handle that. And I thought I wouldn't be able to handle it. But when you think about the emotional development of my children and also my healthiness, that is destructive for me to be upset that he wants to draw them close and he doesn't want to draw me close. Then I'm getting caught up with things that is stopping me from moving forward in my life. So remember, this video, I'm talking to you now about the things I've had to do to overcome the psychological and emotional traps of divorce. Another thing I've had to do is to approach relationships. And I've been in a few relationships since my divorce, even though I'm not married yet. I've had to approach relationships with romantic relationships in a way that is objective. Not looking for anybody to make up for what I've been through. And that is easier said than done. And how I did this is very simple for me. I thought about how difficult it has been for me to heal, even though I have healed very well. I thought about how difficult it is for me to heal, and I decided that anyone I come across who I date, I would treat with tremendous respect. It's the do no harm concept. Wherever they've been, whoever has hurt them, whatever relationship they had, whether they're married, divorced, widowed, whatever. I don't need to make anybody's life more unhappy than it already is. So I made up my mind, even though, of course, in relationship you do have disagreements, and I had some disagreements with the people I dated. I made up my mind that I was going to bring my best and treat them well, so that when the relationship did not work out, they can look back and say, I met somebody and that person helped me. It doesn't always have to end in what I have hoped or they hoped, but that is not an excuse to trample upon them and disrespect them because you don't want them. In essence, what I'm saying is, what I feel is not what I'm giving to others. I'm going to give to others the opposite of how I believe I've been treated, which is goodness. What does that do for you? What did that do for me? It took away all that pain. Also, in meeting people, to not feel bad if it doesn't work out and say something like, oh, if I wasn't divorced now, I would never have had to go through this. There's no need for that. I'm divorced, and that's why I'm dating. Not being in that perpetual place of keep going back to the divorce, going back to the divorce. It's time to move forward. Trying to approach every one of those relationships or people that are potential in a positive way. But the other side to that is also letting people go if they don't want to be here. Very important to me. I am at a stage in my process, in my healing process. I will show that I care about somebody because that's important. If you want to be in a good relationship, show that you really care for them. But I'm not going to bait them and trick them or try to pressure them into marriage. No. Absolutely not. I believe that for a marriage to work, the person has to want to do it. And I'm not somersaulting and going nuts to bait you to walk down the aisle. It's not going to happen. And that has freed me to not have all this emotional baggage of, oh, somebody broke my heart, somebody hurt me. The way I approach it more now is the person did not see eye to eye with me on some issues, or maybe they did not feel like marrying me is a good idea, and that's okay. That is their right to make that decision. And I respect that. Even if I may not like it, I respect it. So I talked about working harder. I talked about, in some areas, working harder in how I talk with my children, in how I manage my money, and also how I approach relationships where I've been, relationships where I've dated people that I thought could be a good fit. Another area that is what I've also done, which I continue to do, is stay away from that tendency to have a third party thing between me and my ex-husband. People do this all the time. They're no longer together, but they have these friends or these intermediaries who pass on information from one person to the other. So they're not with the person anymore. But there's so much going on in terms of information. He said this, she said that. We ain't doing that. I made up my mind from the beginning. I told this to people close and not as close, acquaintances and all. When they asked me how I'm doing with visitation with my ex, We're doing very well. And that was not a lie. There are times we had some challenges, but we worked through it. Even when you're married, you have challenges anyway. But honestly, my life is not a reality show. It's not a reality show. Me personally, everybody's different. But me personally, I saw no need to be in front of the house, dressed up, looking all pretty, so that I can gain the attention of my ex. I don't need all that. For me personally, that's constantly opening up the wound. He's not here. I'm no longer with him. This is the decision that has been made. If something was going to happen between us, it would have to be separate. But I'm not playing this game of, look at how nice I look now. I want you to see what you're missing out on. I don't have time for drama. Now, some people do that. Maybe it works for them. But for me personally, the way I look, if I look good, if I look pretty, if I'm fit, that's my business. I'm not advertising myself to my ex. So when my ex visits, when it comes to pick up the girls, I don't leave my house. They're old enough to see him. I don't make myself known. I don't constantly interject in anything or throw myself in there. There's no need. For me personally, that helped me to, in my head, accept the reality of the divorce and truly take ownership for my feelings rather than constantly looking for affection and attention that from somebody who I'm no longer married to. So that was an important aspect of overcoming the traps. Not looking for something that is romantic from my ex-husband. And not looking for allies, people that will be passing on information. Then they'll be using my divorce as a means of discussion. Something else is going on again. They're doing through this again. No, you're not. We're not doing that. So in these many years of being divorced, there have actually been times where I actually lost contact with a whole lot of people. Not because I wanted to isolate. I'm so busy. And if I don't feel like you're wanting to really be invested in what I'm doing now and where I'm going, and you want to keep talking about maybe how wonderful your marriage is and put in my face I'm divorced, I'm not mad with you, but I really don't have time for you because I really need to focus on now. And you can't focus on now and move forward if you're constantly looking back. So no ally, no third parties passing on information, no allies or people who I'm recruiting to hate on my ex, and nobody who I'm giving information to or giving information to negative about my ex, especially when the divorce was pretty much done, So no extra talking. If you're not invested in my progress and you want to keep talking about what is gone, shame on you, because I'm not going to be part of it. It's on you. That's your problem. I got to move on. I have children to raise, and I have myself to take care of mentally, physically, emotionally, and all. I had to establish another thing that I did that was really important is with my daughters. Instead of let me move from just not saying bad things in their presence and all. My girls became my allies in a good way. I remember one month, Deborah, in those days we used to do checks. Deborah Motolani, we call her Tolani. I gave her my checkbook. So she signed all my bills. I signed my checks, but she wrote it all out, and then we mailed it. That was a great experience, I think, for her. It made her feel really, really big. Plus, she said, Mommy has a lot of bills. So I got my girls involved into some of the logistics of running the household. My little one, Ryo, she's not little now, she's in her 20s. I remember when we're moving to another part of the country, she actually got on the phone and helped book the flights. So much that the woman who was talking to her on the airline, in those days we used to call the airline, she asked who is going on the flight. So she mentioned my name, my mom. The woman said, oh my God, I thought you were an adult. So when I got on the phone with the travel agent, she said, you have done an incredible job. This young lady went through an entire conversation about booking a flight, and I was about ready to ask her, can I have your credit card? I can't believe she's only I think at that time she was At that time, she was about, 11 years old? So they're my allies. I made them my allies. I let them know they're very important and that there's no way I can succeed after divorce, or we can succeed if we all don't do our part. They also knew over time that I wanted very clear boundaries. So I will say to them, anything that is going on in your dad's house, I don't want to know. That's another thing I did. Clear boundaries. This is not an extension of your daddy's house. Your daddy has his own home, I have my own home, and my rules apply here. I don't want to know. I'm not trying to find information. So much that in the past few years, when I've gone through a few things, they will ask me, Mom, is it okay for me to tell Dad that you are da 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 da? They're used to that. They were trained to do that. It's not a matter of keeping secrets. I don't want my children to be tattletales, people that talk about other things and gossips, which is not, that can happen with divorce. So my focus was helping them to focus on why they're with their dad and focus on why they're with me, rather than us using the children as like a bargaining tool or using them as a pawn. That doesn't do well for the children emotionally and psychologically. So again, we've had another long video. So I hope you can hear my heart. I have had to be disciplined at a level I never thought was possible. I've been stretched. I've been squeezed. But he has brought beauty, I believe, in me in terms of how I see myself and how I see other people. I've been stretched spiritually in terms of looking at what the Bible says about me and believing, even though what I'm going through may not fit like it. I have spent more time fasting in the last few years than I've fasted in my entire life before that. Extended fasting and prayer, but not just fasting, getting from the place of fasting and living in line with what I'm believing for. One more thing before I go that I was forgetting to share that I've done and I continue to do. Understanding that no matter how difficult the other person is, and I'm not saying my ex-husband is difficult, as long as you keep doing the right thing, use positive to oppose negative as much as possible. If you go negative, quickly clean up your negativity and go positive. If I feel like my ex is not pulling his weight in some areas, instead of complaining about if he's not pulling his weight, and I'm not saying he was not pulling his weight, I need to focus on what I need to do to pull my weight. Instead of focusing on, oh, he should be doing this, he should be doing that, I'm focused on what should I be doing. I have no control over him, I have control over me. The focus is about what I'm doing and less about what he's doing. And I believe this word firmly as well. Darkness can never overcome light. No matter how hurt you are, if you choose to give positive to your children, give positive to the other person, be as fair as possible. But even as you are fair, you are firm. Because some people are fair and they're gullible. No, I wasn't gullible. And I might do another video about that. How not to be gullible after divorce. Let me write that down. I'm going to do a topic about that. Because sometimes people think because you're married to somebody, everything that comes, you got to take it. Oh, these children, they can't be hurt. So, they can just do what they like. I don't want their feelings to be hurt. You are in trouble. They will start running the house. But you must continue to pour in positive, because connected with that ex-husband of mine are these wonderful children. And that is our legacy. That's our joint legacy. If I pour negative, I'm messing with the legacy of my kids. I ain't doing that. So if you thought marriage stretched you and maybe you haven't explored other ways, explore those. Marriage stretched me. I tried really hard to keep my marriage. Things didn't work out, obviously. Then I've had to work 10 times, and many more times harder to heal after divorce. And then it's been worthwhile. Then I can look back and share this with you today. And I'm so excited that there's hope and there's peace after such an event that could have traumatized me for the rest of my life. I wish this video didn't go on for too long, but I'm pouring out my heart and I'm not even going to try to edit this video. I'm just going to let it out there. Hopefully you can watch it to the end. Watch as much of it, because every bit of this is sharing from 15 years of working on this healing journey that has totally transformed my life and brought me to a higher place, a good place, and a positive place. So let's work hard at our relationships and press that notification bell, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.